bom dia. Happy Saturday. Feliz de sabra. Me espero que você tenha bom simang, whatever that means to you. Que está simang produtivo, simang tranquilo. Se pauta mesteri está tranquilo. Personan ko tading last stretch di carnaval. Me seguro que está simang tiki druk. Haciendo último adjustments na você paia bonita lang. Very much looking forward para que final results di turbos efforts. Awetin para di Nicolas, das microvisitor hende ko si boteriba caminda, patim paciente, because that means chances are que tu vai ter tiki tráfico. Agora como yang também, das just banta consciente que eta é último weekend de carnaval, das ban corre pouco a pouco, agora que se bota bebe, please, no styr, busca bo bar, bo amigo responsável, hende que por pick boss up, of que por yama if anything, para nos poder a temporada aqui, sem muito hopi drama, please. Me a mencionar durante flyers lang ko awi nos vai ter interview episódio awi lota foi na inglês para nos preparar de onderzoek mopi interessante ko agora assim kinang na Aruban onderzoek tá na holandês para nos aqui para assim episódio aqui na inglês para assim mais gente por escutar over di local ko agora hanya das me diz que manda reminder com Jesus vai switch completamente na inglês. Também me quero caraboso que se botar em auto, for escuchando-nos via rádio, anto bom nota um chance para escutar full episode, do not worry, vou por o que back riba YouTube e Facebook de Cool FM, YouTube de Sincerely Carolina, e riba jamaras vou por hanhele riba po favorite podcasting platform, manera Spotify or Apple Podcast. So without further ado, me quero bisa danke na aming awesome sponsors, danke na Total, na Game, na La Roche-Posay, yung reminder pa cara junta sunscreen, 2 finger rules, just remember that. E reapply, se também to hopi importante. Alright, so me belaga mi guest introduce su mis en nota novo na Sincerely Carolina, but it's been a while. Me belaga conta-nos quem eta, why she's here today, anto Kiko, não sei para pedir awe. So without further ado, Dr. Paula, hi, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carolina. I was so much looking forward to meeting you again.
Yay! I was looking forward too. You're always doing very interesting work. You work on a lot of interesting topics in general, but you recently finished a research. Can you tell us a little bit of who you are? I mean, what do you do on the island? What do you do in regards to research and what this research was about?
Yes, just a reintroduction, I guess.
Yes.
Well, my name is Paula Kibbelaar, and I already live almost 16 years in Aruba. I'm originally from Curaçao, but I grew up in the Netherlands. I am a social scientist, and 16 years ago, I was recruited by the Aruban government to work for the University of Aruba, and I was the founding dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences.
Ooh.
And so after 4 years, IPA, the Teaching Training Academy of Aruba, asked me if I could work for them, and I'm still there. So I don't know what that means, because I thought after 4 years I would go back to the Netherlands or to Curaçao. I'm so sorry. But I'm still here. I don't know what that means.
Probably that you like it here.
No, or they like me, or I don't know about that. But it has been an interesting time for me, professionally, of course. Managerial at the University of Aruba. At IPA, professionally, it was much more content-wise and getting to know the community.
Mm-hmm.
I am a daughter of a teacher, so my mom was very much involved in teaching and in social work of children. So it comes back to me at IPA. My dad was a scientist, and so I think it's a combination that is into me.
Yes, I'd love to hear that. So Paula, you, together with some colleagues in the Netherlands, just did a very interesting research about risky behavior in Aruban youth.
Yes.
Can you tell us how this research came about, who you did this with, and why did you want to, or why was it important to research this specific age group or this specific issue?
Well, thank you for the question. As you know, 3 years ago you interviewed me already, and with my colleague Dr. Annemarie Slotboom from the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam, and Professor Jan Hendricks from also the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, but then specifically the Nederlandse Centrum voor Criminaliteitsbestrijding en Rechtshandhaving, which is a research institute at the Vrije Universiteit.
Okay.
And he is also affiliated with the University of Amsterdam. We started to actually do a pilot to see how the situation was for the youth in Aruba. And they are very senior researchers, very experienced and renowned in the Netherlands and internationally. Annemarie, much more on gender of the girls, what happens with girls that they are actually getting in risky behavior, and Jan much more with boys. Sometimes I will use Dutch words because that is a little bit also the situation with this project. And so we started a pilot to see if there was a situation or issues at IPA, and this is like 6 years ago. And we finished this pilot, and you interviewed me also about it. In 2020, and we handed over to the then Minister of Education, which was mid in COVID. So we collected our data in 2019 with 11 schools, and we did an inventory on which are the main areas of concerns regarding the quality of life of Aruban youth. And there were 4 topics: the school context, the barrio, the neighborhood that they live in, the situation at home, family situation, and last but not least, their well-being, their physical well-being. When the then Minister of Education remarked that, he said, actually, you should be preparing also a follow-up to see actually what is happening now and during COVID and post-COVID. Another government was installed in 2001, and then we presented the findings of the pilot, and then the then Minister of, still the Minister of Justice and Social Affairs, and the Minister of Education said, we want you to do a national inventory, all the youngsters between 10 and 14 years old, but we want you to focus on the mental health, because we know that COVID had an impact on the mental health of on young people. We want you to add some extra questions, survey questions for the youth on what their mental health is. And so we prepared for that like 3 years ago. We got funding. It's for the first time that Aruban government funded a research project this big on this topic on a national level. So it was really an honor to do this, but it was also a huge responsibility that it should succeed. And we expanded the survey questions and the interview questions with extra mental health questions. We put colleagues on it, psychology experts like Janneke Dapper-Nederhoed, also working at IPA, and Daniane Salcedo, who is a well-known psychologist, to check if we are not asking too much, and also that the children will not get emotional during the survey. So now the topics were still school context, barrio or neighborhood, the impact of barrio neighborhood, the impact of the family situation, at home, and the well-being. We actually split that in physical health, well-being, and mental health, mental health. So these were the 4 topics that for the youngsters we developed. We reformulated a little bit the survey questions. They were surveyed by tablets. And we interviewed the school professionals or the school managers, which consist of the director or the social worker at school or a school board, and or as they say here in Aruba, interne begeleider, class assistant, and minimum 2, maximum 4 school professionals of each school.
So like teachers?
Each elementary school and 1 and 2 SPO schools. So we did all the schools all over Aruba. And for the first time, we included parents. We wanted also to know the experience of parents on these topics. So we organized focus group sessions for all the districts, the 6 districts. Minimum 4, max 8 parents were invited to discuss en group about the 4 topics. So we had 3 research groups basically from different angles, but also from a different methodological approach, survey, quantitative, and the other two interviews and focus group session, qualitative. And so we brought all those collected data together, and then we analyzed that, which was a huge thing. But the whole process of field work to prepare and to inform all the school boards, all the schools, also the special schools, which mean the Montessori schools, the faith-based schools, the private schools. It has been an honor of my life to really get to know Aruba in this way. I always thought Aruba is small, but this is from a magnitude also, but organized logistically, it was a huge task. And colleagues from IPA, like Marvin Odor and Marlene de Cuba, they were really onmisbaar, as you say in Dutch. They were so valuable because they know the community, they know exactly where the schools are, they know some persons also in the schools, and working from IPA, from the context from IPA, was the best entrance to get also the collaboration of the Department of Education, of all the school boards, which was not easy because there is of course a fatigue. What are we going to do with the data? They have already concerns about the mental health. They had already concerns about the mental health of their pupils, but it was for the first time scientifically that this was...
That you can actually say,
written, there's a report now.
Exactly.
Everybody knows it, but as a social scientist, it is my responsibility or my assignment to analyze it, to study it, to research it, and give recommendation how to improve situations.
So I want to ask you right away. I mean, it was indeed, and I'm so happy that you explained this, because I think that in Aruba we hear, sometimes about reports, or we hear that some people might do research, etc. But we don't necessarily understand what kind of goes into it. Or sometimes they say, oh, we made a report, but then people like me who like to read or who like to understand what methods were used, and then I see, oh, maybe, just a couple of schools were used, and then I wonder, how representative is it? And I mean, it's always good data, any data, that you can have.
Makes visible, and I'm a teacher of research. Visibility is key, and then the debate, and then of course the analysis and the improvement. These are the steps for research. Sorry, I was interrupting you. The teacher in me comes out.
The teacher comes out. I love it. But like you said, it's and that's important to understand that. So like you said, something that comes up is fatigue. But also I think that we as an island are a little afraid anytime that there is an actual representative research, because then it kind of becomes a little undeniable. When there are smaller research, you can say like, oh, but it's not all schools, right? It's not all children, or it's not, all workplaces. But once you have something representative, you can't really say it is not. So I want to ask you, what are the main things that came out that you think, I mean, there are different things that came out, but especially important for the community to understand that this is concerning, or we should be giving these findings attention?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned already, it's very important that this research has been done. I can go on and on about the logistic challenges that we had, but we did it. But it also showed indeed that not a lot of research is being executed on the island. So people are fatigued, but they don't know what the follow-up is. So the regard towards research should be more elevated. It's very important for the knowledge production and the knowledge development of a community, and it should be contextualized. So of course we were like an international research team working with the VU, which is a renowned established academic institution in the Netherlands, but also getting to know what the context is from the Netherlands, the Dutch perspective, as the Aruban perspective. And so we had also our literary review being done. We had the pilot already. The pilot were consisting 11 schools, and that gives an indication what the problems or issues could be or are. And then we had the invitation of the Aruban government to execute it on a national level. So based on the results that we collected for the pilot, we knew already that there were issues that were alarming. And so the COVID came, and then we got this assignment, and we also assumed that because of COVID, the situation would have been worsened. And that was the case, of course. Because of the fact that the commissioners really wanted to know about the mental health of the youth, it's very sensitive. How do you ask and how do you report on mental health? It could be just an incident, but it could also be a systemic situation that our youth has been confronted with. And because of the fact that they wanted to highlight that, we also had to present our preliminary findings, and we had to conclude that the mental health was deteriorating compared to our pilot findings of 2-3 years ago. And what I can say, because of the 4 topics, they are interconnected. We use the Bronverbrenner model, which is a very well-known, almost famous analysis model that has been introduced in the 70s, end of the 70s, by this researcher or professor Bronverbrenner. And it shows like an onion all kinds of cycles, which represent the levensgebieden, the life cycles of a child. So you can really analyze what happens at home, in the neighborhood, or in the bigger society, or in church, or at school, etc. So we use that. And we have also linked the topics with that Bronverbrenner model in order for us to analyze the data that came out. And regarding the school, and I say it a little bit generally, you have to actually read the report, that the children often feel at home, at school.
Okay.
They didn't really complain a lot, that actually the parents complain more about their relationship with the school, or the school board, or the management of the school, or the teacher, than the
actual
child.
Students, yes.
Of course, there were problems at school with other children, perhaps, or with the language.
Okay.
And it is within all these topics that we have to highlight the situation of migrant children. The migrant children in the Aruban school system, they have extra challenges for acceptance, the diversity inclusion component, but also of course the language issue, and being accepted by other school children.
That their peers.
Their peers. That these were concerns to them regarding the school context, and the school professionals, they were really emphasizing that, and they work extremely hard. I mean, there should be a prize for teachers on the island for what they do and what they have to endure. But you see that there are school professionals that are really, really working hard that the school becomes the second home. And they're very aware that the school should be the second home, because they know the situation of a lot of children at home are not perfect. So they focus also on creating an environment that is safe, that is healthy, that is motivating, in order for the children not only academically to thrive, but also feel at home and to guide them. And there are some schools that are mind-blowing in what the endeavors that they have for these children. It's really beautiful to see. You see a difference in management. You see the difference in how some schools are managed, how their network and their sources and funding are. And that also depends on the personality of the manager or the director or their connections. So that is definitely something that you see. You see difference in some schools that have much more resources than other schools, also depending on the districts that they are in. And that is it's a pity to see that in Aruba. Within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. That should be much more equal.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And then the parents, regarding school context, they had some complaints that are that need to be highlighted. They are a forgotten group. regarding this topic, and they have a lot to tell. They're very busy. Very often they have their careers, and there's also a concern regarding the migrant parents, that they are not often included, or they don't understand the curriculum, or they don't understand the language that are being taught. So that is also something to look further into. But they actually feel sometimes neglected by the school. There are parents that are very much included and are very much participating in the school activities. These are parents that are examples for parent participation, but there are a lot of parents that are not doing anything, and the teachers or the school manager don't have any way or they don't know how to connect with the parents, and there is a particular concern for the migrant parents. And so the parents were very critical of the curriculum. They really thought that that was not advancing. There was no vision. They don't know what the vision is of Aruba towards their education on elementary level, but also what do you want to achieve as a country towards the educational level of your population. The youth is the future generation. So what is it that you're going to do? And that is something that they also said it was not all schools have a school board also that they align with. So critical feedback on how the school board operates towards them. And last but not least, they actually felt that the school was not really academically enough innovative. The curriculum was not, it was a little bit backwards. And although they're all technological tablets and everything, but somewhere they felt that the content was not really into place. So there were a lot on the topic of school context that from the different angles, the different research group that needs some attention. And then the barrio was something that is also very important. The barrio, a different district in Aruba. Anthropologically, it's very interesting how the culture really submerge in also the schools, and how you have to deal with the culture of that specific district. And you see that some districts, they have much more financial power than other districts regarding their schools. It is a little bit alarming in certain districts. San Nicolas, for example, also in Dakota or North, there you see schools, but you have also the private schools and the faith-based schools that also need more attention because they're private. And you don't know what is happening there. And for the faith-based schools, there are a lot of migrant children that are being actually supported and that are going to these schools. And I don't know what the policies are and what the visions are, because it's a complete different angle of how they teach and how they see the world. It's very interesting to see that. But there's much more happiness, not happiness, but content towards the barrio watch, the police watch in certain barrios. But there is a concern that children still are too late on the street, although they are much more on their social media than on the street. But you see that parents really think that some migrant children are on the street. They don't know their neighbors anymore. They look back when in certain neighborhoods you knew everybody, that's almost
children
family.
Played outside.
Yes, but that is different now. So there's the multicultural dimension is definitely being not critically assessed, but they do think that they don't know each other anymore, as in previous days. And it's also that some are really critical of the deterioration in certain neighborhoods, and it's unsafe for children, it's not nice, it's too impoverished, too neglected. So they are critical to the government, what they are doing to improve the conditions of their neighborhood. So that is definitely an item for concern. And the children, they feel sometimes that they feel very at home in the barrio because of the girlfriends or boyfriends that they have, and sometimes they sit at home. So that is really, the parents were much more critical, and also the school professionals were also critical, because Try My Dia and all kinds of other support networks have been budgeted on. It's not that easy anymore. They really think that there should be more, and the parents emphasize that more things to do for children in the neighborhoods. That is fun, that has to do with sport, that has to do with creative, and that is accessible, and the children can stay there when they work, and that is also deteriorating, or is not enough, it's insufficient. And so regarding the family situation, this is something that I want to highlight, specifically because we had the assignment for post-COVID and the mental health. And of course, the lockdown was something that really forced families and households to stay at home for the first time. And that had all kinds of consequences. And the children really, through the survey, mentioned how they got much more emotional, and the parents emphasized that too, much more nervous. The school professionals emphasized that. They also, the school profession highlighted that there were issues of concentration and focus attention in school due to what was happening during COVID. And the children themselves they mentioned that the situation at home was tensed. And of course, the financial crisis and the social emotional stress that comes with it, they feel that. And they had to stay at home. So everybody was at home. And that definitely impact on their behavior, on the social media behavior. That also, of course, has a consequence on the addiction to social media. And that was something that was the commissioners were right about the fact that COVID had an impact. So the household situation for a lot of youngsters is problematic, though. There are a lot of one-parent households. We know that, but that is an extra pressure for the person that is managing that. Most often, that is a mom. And there are more and more households that are being run by a father, but still, most of the one-parent households are run by a mom, by a mother, or a female household. There are a lot of households that are, in Dutch you say, samengestelde gezinnen. So the dad had a previous household, the mom had a previous relationship, and they come together with their children. And that is also something that needs more attention, how that works or how that plays out in the development of a child. And the migrant households. So without some social networks of family or whatever, they are here and they don't have the network they can rely on as other households. So our different households, you have the twee verdieners household, as they say in Dutch. You have that. People have studied outside of Aruba. They come back. They have good careers. They're very busy, though, with their careers. And some of the schools, they do have a majority of of these kinds of households, but only a few. Okay. So the thing is that the household situation has a direct impact on the school achievement of the child.
And what
not
about
even the school context or the multilingualism, not even the barrio. It is
the household.
Yeah, de thuissituatie.
And what about multi-generational households? Is that something
yes,
that...
Yes, of course. Yes. I forgot to mention that. The grandmom is really important, extended family situation,
so like
with aunts, tios, tias, nephews, but a grandmom that takes care and is an integral part of that household, or in the compound itself or outside.
I was I'm wondering if it comes back in your research as well, because it does assess risky behavior. I was talking to my boss actually about it, that she was at a lecture where they talked about how multi-generational households also impacts, stress, because you're dealing with the stress of all of these adults. So maybe they would have just the parents who might be complaining about work, but then they have also like the aunts who are living at home complaining about work and financial stress. But also because they have a lot of adults giving them different directions, that they have sort of an issue with authority and like who's the actual authoritative figure in a household when you have a hierarchy going on between the adults.
Yes.
But then also with the children.
Yes, it's for sure that the household, in my opinion, humble opinion, is the key area to really look into for the further, actually for the quality of life of our children. And I think that there are different types of households. There are also different socioeconomic backgrounds of households. You cannot pinpoint or link it with each other automatically.
No.
There are different kind of angles to study that, but you see that the multi-generational household is definitely the main household type that we saw. The children are really mentioning de thuissituatie. And if that is okay, if there's safety, if there's structure, if there are norms and values, then you see that the child feels belongs, feels safe. When it's not the case, for financial stress or social emotional stress, then there is an issue. We also have to mention that there are households that are very strict, very hierarchical. And the school professionals mentioned that some migrants groups, they have a very hierarchical way of organizing, but also sanctioning. And that is different from what is actually perceived as okay in Aruba. So that is also actually a concern how to deal with that and how to accept that, because it might be from a different cultural perspective okay, but that doesn't mean that it is good
for the child. Yes.
Good for the child within this context, within the Aruban context. So that is definitely the socioeconomic background, the socio-emotional safety net, support net that the household should be. That was difficult to really see as that is going okay in Aruba. Definitely not post-COVID. And last but not least, the physical and the mental well-being of the children.
Before we go into that, because I did read something that was also very interesting in regards to like the household aspect, which I think really also relates to a child's ability to concentrate and to focus on school, is the level of responsibility that children are having at a very young age. And I talked to my dad about this not too long ago, and he said that back then in the Netherlands there was a thing called sleutelkinderen, which usually were children of parents who financially were not okay, so the parents worked a lot, and then they didn't come home to somebody because everybody was working, nobody was taking care of them. And that seems to be very common here in Aruba. What did you find in this research? Is this also like a level of concern where children are taking up, chores or household responsibilities at too young of an age where, it might be affecting their overall development and...
Well, we know that already. We didn't specifically ask that in this research.
Okay.
It was mentioned. It has been observed. The school professional mentioned it.
Okay.
They definitely felt or saw or observed that a lot of children had a lot of responsibilities regarding their sisters or siblings, the family situation, or themselves. That was definitely also expressed. But we didn't really, in our questions, focus on that item. On our questions, we wanted to know what the general feeling was in order for us to define or understand better the quality of life. And the quality of life is actually a formula within the sustainability development concept. We want to know, or we want to strive or achieve a decent life for everybody. Een waardig bestaan voor iedereen. And the children or the youth that we have surveyed, they were between 10 and 14 years old. And some of them had already a lot experienced in their lives.
Okay.
And particularly some of the children that we surveyed at the SPO schools.
Okay.
They were not problematic, but they had challenged situations. So definitely the thuissituatie, the family situation is problematic for a lot of children. And the school professionals mentioned that. They emphasize that they want to achieve a second home situation at school, but they are not a second home. They are a school. They have to be able to finish a year so that a child can read and write at a certain level. There are end qualifications to achieve. So it's really a kind of a challenge to create a safe environment and also be aware of the social situation or the socio-economic situation of that child and how to connect with parents. But definitely the children have a lot on their plate, it's for sure, yeah.
All right, so the physical and mental well-being. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, overall, Aruba has to be not really concerned about that that there is no decent life. It can be better, and it has worsened the mental health after COVID for sure. And Aruba has had the lockdown. It was a terrible situation financially. It was economically dead. So the children were at home. Parents didn't have jobs anymore. And a lot of the children have parents with jobs, not with careers. And a job is not infinitive. It's not vertical. It ends. In security, in gardening, in the hotel sector, in cleaning. So having a job is not always secured. And also not a career, but you are job hunting. Migrants come here and they get introduced to the labor market through jobs. So that is something that has an impact. Regarding the physical health, there is of course concern regarding obesitas. Aruba has some excellent examples of healthy schools. Actually, they just also produced again an annual report on how the healthy school, the gezonde school, are doing it in their canteen, and a lot of other schools that are not labeled as healthy schools, but they are working on giving their pupils healthy food. The thing is, and I never thought about that practically, because of the heat, it's difficult sometimes to prepare fruits and other healthy products. You have to have a fridge. After a while, the bananas and the apples, they
go bad.
Yeah. So there are some challenges with that. But there are a lot of schools that are very aware of it. There is obesitas. What is actually much more concerning, after COVID, pupils were tired.
Okay.
They were exhausted, and that had an impact on their focus and concentration. Everything became, of course, via Zoom or online, and also that impacted their behavior on social media. Parents are very, very worried, very concerned about the social media behavior, and there's a higher percentage of parents that are really actively involved to see what the child is doing with their phone, if they do have a phone. So there are all kinds of programs. They want to know if the child says, I'm going to sleep. They sometimes know that the child is not going to sleep, but in bed still on the social media. So you saw the parents' reaction and awareness regarding social media, but also that children are picked up late by their parents that work late at night in the hotel sector. The child is at an aunt or a neighbor waiting for the mother or the father to pick him up or to pick her up. It's like 9 o'clock. sometimes they have to cook, but sometimes after that the parents have to cook, and they go sleep at 10 o'clock with a full belly. And so parents were concerned about that. The school professionals were concerned about it. And even some of the pupils were concerned about that because they see it
with their peers.
So the tiredness, the exhaustion impacted the concentration and also a certain kind of vibrancy because they don't have the energy in the morning. So that is definitely something that they saw post-COVID. And regarding mental health, of course, much more issues regarding concentration, much more issues with restlessness, being nervous, being a little bit emotional, and that expressed himself in not aggressive but assertive behavior. There is some violent behavior on the schoolyards, but that's boys, and also a lot of bullying.
Okay.
A lot of bullying, social media bullying is of course mentioned, but there is some concern that there is no emotional balance. There's this kind of restlessness. There's a kind of nervousness, and tired. People are tired. When you're tired, mentally it's draining.
Yes. And you become more explosive.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, irritable. Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And that the school professional mentioned, the parents also mentioned it, and the children actually, through the surveys, highlighted that. And while we were surveying, and we did it as a team, we had to be very careful when we distributed the tablets because some of the children became very emotional when they had to answer some of the questions. And of course, we have to be very much aware of social desirable answers because sometimes you know that a respondent will answer because they think that that is what you want to know. But we were very much touched by some of the reaction of the children, by some of the emotional outpouring of the children when they had to answer the questionnaire. Yes.
And were there specific parts that trigger that in the children that you could pinpoint? What like were there questions that made the children maybe a little bit more emotional?
Yeah, definitely. When we ask about the emotional situation and also the at-home situation, everything was anonymous, so it was not relevant for us who that specific child was, but only the district, if it was a girl or a boy, the age, which language he or she prefers, because we had it in Dutch, English, Spanish, and in Papiamento, which schools, and of course, which grade.
Okay.
And we specifically had this category between 10 and 14 years old that could be better explained by my colleagues from the VU, Dr. Annemarie Slotboom and Jan Hendricks, Professor Jan Hendricks, because in the youth psychology, that is actually the entrance of the voorportaal to adolescence. Okay. And there you can see, as they explained it to me, when a child could have some behavioral issues that could indicate that he or she would end up in an unhealthy, as they say it, politically correct, or unsafe a life pathway. Okay. So that is what they call actually the voorportaal for perhaps criminal behavior or risky behavior. It's risky behavior.
Yes.
And the risky behavior was also mentioned by a lot of school professionals regarding ongewenste intimiteit of ongewenst seksueel gedrag.
Okay.
So it's there that in puberty it's going to be explored.
I saw that was also one of the recommendations that, and I thought that was very interesting because for context, and some of the people that listen know I also work as a policy advisor in the government, and in my department specifically, this was also a very interesting topic that sometimes as adults you assume that these are things people know. And I mean, you and I, Paula, also being interested in women issues, we know that is not true, but still on a, in a professional sphere, you kind of feel like people would know what the line is for ongewenst gedrag, for behavior that is not acceptable, not only towards women but just towards others. But then, we also worked on our policy in regards to healthcare, how that looks like in healthcare and how to report it and how to go about it, having safe places. So when I saw that recommendation, I was like, oh my gosh, of course, because you can't expect adults to know this, even if they're professionals or not, if they never learned these barriers, if they never understood what the boundaries are to your behavior. So I thought that was very interesting, and
it's also very difficult. It's very challenging, and it falls and it staat and valt, as they say in Dutch, with communication and with, of course, information and how do you say, voorlichting. There need to be a lot of more communication, awareness regarding these topics. For some people it works out, for other people not. It's not just tailor-made, and that makes it difficult. That makes it challenging. There is, of course, a concern for parents that are weak, that need much more support. We just assume that when you are a family, you can carry that, you can take that responsibility. It's difficult to raise a child. And there are parents that are mentally also challenged or have issues. And there are a lot of school professionals also mention that there are addicted parents or parents with financial stress or problems. That also has an impact on how
they're on survival mode, on
survival mode. So that is something that needs to be really taken care of, because that has a lasting impact. That are generational cursors or burdens that you take with you as a child. You see where your parents go through. And so that is something that is definitely that needs more attention through awareness, workshops. School boards need to pay more attention. They have a lot on their plate. And we, as one of the main recommendations of this report, is, of course, much more schools, social workers need to be recruited through the school boards, the schools. And now you have school boards with 2 social workers. It doesn't work. We have 3 or 4 big school boards, everybody knows, and then you have a lot of special schools, a lot of new new schools also erupting as a kind of an answer, or an answer to the more main traditional way that other elementary schools are in Aruba. Montessori schools are popping up, all kinds of other pedagogically context schools. It's a reaction on what is happening of this field, and that has also been expressed by the parents during the focus group sessions, that they feel that it should be more innovative, much more interesting, the curriculum or how they teach. But there is a concern towards parents that they're not able to raise their child. They are addicted, they have problems, financial problems, of mental problems, and school professionals are asking there should be courses, trainings for parents to really be introduced how you should do that. And there is now being developed a national pedagogic vision. So that is in the making for sure. It's a huge thing. As school boards should be on board on that and try to organize classes or, awareness workshops. And then there is the other issue that a lot of schools also have the challenge of organizing nice activities, and they don't have a lot of funding.
I was going to ask a question. It might be a little, I don't want to say controversial, but maybe inflammatory, I'm not sure. But, as you mentioned, there's a lot of new private schools. There's a lot of new private schools with different approaches as well, which might or might not have some government funding. But if you look at them, most of them come with a relatively steep price tag that only a certain group of people can afford.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it might just be an opinion that you might have, but how is that impacting the public schools and these, semi-public schools? So that we have like the big school boards that are, considered public schools in the sense of that they are fully funded by the government. Once you have all of these parents taking their children to these private schools, that might be the parents who might be involved in school activities and might contribute to activities. And if they more and more leave, are teachers also left with parents who do not have time to participate, who do not have financial funding to contribute? Is that something that is
definitely
happening?
Yeah, there's definitely a gap. It's everywhere, and it's worldwide. And you see that the socio-economic background of a household, of a family, determines also the educational success of the child. Not even the level of intelligence or work ethic or investment. It is definitely the socio-economic background. And you see that it's worldwide. And there is a gap widening also in Aruba for the have and the have-nots. And it has also one of the first impacts is through education. And education is very important. It should be also one of the high priorities of the next government that is going to be now installed. There are a lot of things not sufficiently, as if I may say so, being addressed, not only from the social emotional perspective, but also much more on the content-wise. And I think that when you start a family, you want the best for your child. This is what you want. Education is one of the main vehicles for social mobility, and it's also the main vehicle to guarantee a decent life. So this is why this research is so important for Aruba, not only from a social perspective, but also from an educational perspective. What is the vision of the Aruban government regarding the future generation on education? What is it that you want to offer? What is it that you can offer? What other routes are there? And what is it that you really want also to what is it that you want them to contribute to the community development? Because that is, of course, the whole objective. And right now, I think that I was touched by this research, and it was personal because I'm a daughter of a teacher, and I never wanted to deal with it. Now I'm in another country, in Aruba, in another context, and I see the immense importance of highlighting this a situation for the youth. And it is also that a lot of people work very, very hard in education, and they don't have any perspective in actually improving or also gaining more knowledge, or also getting their career perspectives being fulfilled. So there is, in a way, not enough mobility in the educational field. It is really an issue that there are not sufficient social workers working on every school. Should be at least one. And now we're talking school boards that have 4 for all the schools that are affiliated with its specific school board. The other one has 3 and one has 1. It's not
enough.
It's mind-blowing that is happening. So there should be an investment in social workers that are appointed to each school, or the school boards need at least, like, for every school or every district, 1 or 2 or 3 social workers that are really involved in the schools. There are a lot of issues. So that is one of the first recommendations that we had to write, and I hope that the next government is going to pick this up.
Paula, thank you so much. I want to end it here, unless you have something that you still want to mention. Thank you so much.
Thank you
sharing.
so much. I hope it highlighted what we did. It also it's huge, the report. We just actually have handed over to the minister this was a team effort. So Annemarie, Jan, Marvin, Marlene, Gregory, Goed Gedrag, and Janneke. Without them, we could not have done it. It was huge, and it needs all the attention that it deserves because it's about the youth, Aruban youth, and the quality of Aruban youth, future generation of this country.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending some time with me this Saturday morning.
Thank you so much for your invite. I feel we bonded, definitely.
Yes,
This is the third time.
Indeed.
The fourth time will come.
Of course. We'll continue to talk as long as there is stuff to talk about and you have lots of stuff to talk about.
I hope I have been clear, and I also hope that I highlighted the importance of this study. And this is really exceptional that the government of Aruba did this.
Yes, so we are happy, and I am certainly, as somebody who likes to look at data and research, I'm happy that
Let me show you the...
Yes, you can show it, so it's right
quality
there.
Quality of life of Aruban youth.
And it will
follow up post-COVID youth monitor. I have requested to the director of the Department of Education, Annemarie Proveyer, to put it online so people can really look for it themselves. And we are starting now with the dissemination of the knowledge, writing articles, chapters for book, but also giving presentation. 12th of March, I will do it for the Department of Social Work. We are also going to organize for the whole field a presentation as soon as possible with the new government in place.
Nice.
For all the school boards and all the schools that participated, because without their participation it would have not been possible. And we hope that the recommendation, we also will present it to the Ministerraad. And hopefully this will be embedded in the future funding, and so every 2 or 3 years this monitor will be executed.
Thank you. So I promise you, for those of you that are listening, that once Paula lets me know that it is on the website, I will share the link so that you can read it too if you're interested in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So if you tuned in towards the end, I mentioned at the beginning that we will be speaking in English today to accommodate Dr. Paula Kibbelaar so she can tell us a little bit about the research that she did together with her colleagues from The View in Amsterdam. So thank you so much for tuning in. You can find this episode back on the YouTube and Facebook of Cool FM and the YouTube of Sincerely Carolina. It will be on your favorite podcasting platform on Tuesdays, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whichever one you use. Switching back to Papiamento for a minute. Thank you for tuning in. Mito spero ko boso por avolge e sia algo novo. Maneira mi sa mention na mas biaha. Ting ora nosta hasi episodio ng onda ko nosta code switch no sa papel tiki di diferente linguaje. Ting ora nosta hasi episodio ng full Papiamento of full inglês maneira biaha aqui. Pasina nos por segurar ko nosa tem conversação kuta educativo e pa e persona e profissional nang trabajando riba un specifico área por expressar ang mes e por conta nos di e trabalho que não está haciendo. Me quero say duidelijk más. Quero dizer dank aan mijn awesome sponsors for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Ay nosso papel di kwaliteit de vida di nos hobing nang onderzoek agora hasiri besa aqui onderzoek representativo, seguro que sim. Aha, e para me biar com nos jovens nang edade waro surveyed nang mens, das Paula Kibbelaar say, da pensa se da hopi importante também. Maneira me mencionar, assina ku eta riba e website di Departamento de Educação, me lo compartilha essa aqui também, el link. Riba mi social media, do se pronto follow me ainda, it's at sincerely.carolina, riba Instagram, vovahaya me riba at Cine Talks também, vovahaya me riba Facebook. So just look me up. Anto, assim na posso stay up to date. Enjoy Carnaval. We mayang anto. Yes, happy Saturday. Thank you to Total, La Roche-Posay, and Gain. I appreciate you. And to Cool Fam, of course. Bye. See you next week. Carolina, and I am the host of Sincerely Carolina, a series of educational conversations about current social issues with local and international experts. Make sure you tune in every Saturday on Cool FM from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Bye!